So welcome back. This is Reggie Mara speaking about Healing America's Narratives. We're talking about Chapter 6, which is a chapter on a brief history of the Vietnam War. And we're doing this in the context of President Eisenhower's warnings about what he had learned through World War II and the 5 precepts that he handed down to his predecessors based on his learnings from that Second World War. More specifically, in this episode, we'll take a look at what happened despite Eisenhower's warnings, and despite, in fairness, to his funding major portions of France's attempt to recolonize Vietnam after World War II. Take a look at what was really happening from the mid-1960s through approximately 1974 in the United States, in response, first in Vietnam, in response to the kind of insertion of Diem as a president in South Vietnam. Buddhist monks began to self-immolate, to set themselves on fire in protest against the U.S. insertion of this Catholic, French-educated man as president of the country. And then some American citizens themselves, in protest against war, would follow that self-immolation practice. Parents of young men in Vietnam began to receive letters from their sons depicting the horrors that they both saw there and that they committed themselves. And then probably a real turning point began when black and white footage sent by photojournalists in Vietnam began to appear on the evening news across America. So protests erupted around the country. Young men burned their draft cards. African Americans, especially, but not only in the South, who were drafted, began to question why they should go fight for somebody else's freedom when they didn't even have full freedom themselves in their country of birth, the United States. And there was the shooting by the Ohio National Guard of 4 student protesters on the the Kent State University campus. And then the gradual emergence, through '68 and after '68, of both President Johnson and Richard Nixon lying about who and what was being bombed in Southeast Asia, not just in Vietnam, and how much bombing was being done. So across the board, as news of what was really going on over there became increasingly clear to American citizens, protests erupted throughout the country. And in fairness, the protests were on both sides. There were many people protesting against the anti-war protesters and in favor of American involvement in Vietnam. So suffice it to say, oversimplification, stating the obvious, the Vietnam War was an extraordinarily divisive event in American history, and we'll continue with a couple of more episodes unpacking what happened and how it impacted the country. So thank you again for tuning in. I look forward to seeing you the next time.